Teachers, what's the craziest rumor you've heard about a student that turned out to be true? So-and-so brought a gun to school before break. He had a hit list and everything, but security caught him. That's why he isn't here. As soon as she said it, I asked her to stop spreading rumors like that. I told her that if someone had brought a gun to school, then the administration would have told the teachers about it. Nope, the rumor was true. Kid brought a gun to school and security did catch him. But the administration decided not to tell any of the teachers about it, and the kid was only suspended, not expelled, so he was back in my classroom by the end of next week. Next story. A student who kept falling asleep in class and not doing work said it was because bad guys were after him. It turned out his best friend had been shot and unalived in front of him, and he was so traumatized he was losing sleep and thought he would be next. His family couldn't afford anything beyond school counseling and shuffled him off to live with grandparents in another state. Both kids were 8 years old. Next story. George burnt down his apartment building. I was teaching a grade 4 to 5 split in a low-income area. A lot of the kids lived in the same apartment, which was government housing. One weekend, that building burned down. Mercifully, no one was killed. But, well, it was still really devastating, obviously. There was this one boy in my class, George, who, the following Monday, all the kids were sort of avoiding and being kind of mean to, and I heard them whispering that he had burned down the building, which I thought was nonsense. He was a kind of odd kid, so I thought they were just picking on him, and I felt super bad for him all morning. Come lunch break, I'm in the staff room, and of course it is all the teachers are talking about, and it turns out the rumor is true. George burnt down the building, but it wasn't like he just set a fire. It was actually really depressing. I mean, more than it would have been normally, of course. His mom worked nights, and there was supposed to be someone to be there to look after him that night. But the babysitter was so late, the mom called her at home, but there was no answer. So she figured the babysitter was on her way. This is a while ago, before cell phones were ubiquitous, like this is 15 years ago or more. So middle-class people maybe had cell phones, but very few of the people in this neighborhood did. So she left, figuring the babysitter would be there soon, but she never showed. I never learned why. The babysitter was fine, she just never showed up. George got hungry, decided to cook himself some supper, figuring he'd seen his mom do it hundreds of times. He could figure out the oven, and yeah, there was a fire that then burned down the entire building. Next story. I have a good one. It's not one single rumor, but the rumors about this girl were out of control for a 2 to 4 month period of the school year. Girl at a party had some regrettable intimacy and claimed she was SA'd. Everyone believed her, basically, except a few people who believed said accused guy. One day during school, she had apparently asked for a pass to go to the bathroom. She met some other guy, not party guy, in one of the locker rooms at school to have intimacy. Some random person happened to go into the locker room and saw them. The person recorded what they saw and never told anyone. Later, the girl claimed SA by the locker room guy too after he didn't want to date her or something. Out of nowhere, the person with the video came forward. She had to be on a safety plan because people hated her guts, and clearly the second SA claim was false, and then no one believed the first one either, so that guy was vindicated. She ended up transferring. Obviously great that it worked out and the accused were proven innocent, but is someone just going around recording someone's sexual relations? I mean, they didn't know that it was going to come in handy later. They were just keeping that. I feel like we should check on that kid. Next story. You probably just want to avoid Quentin. He will try to hurt you. I teach high school and heard this headed into my first year of teaching and had this kid in my class. On the first day of school, he talked about how his cat got SA'd. Several weeks later, spent the class shining a laser pointer in my eyes until I figured out it was him. Eventually, another teacher had to get a restraining order against him because he threatened to unalive her with very specific actions. Eventually, he did get sent to juvie. At this point, I figured I was done hearing about him. Nope. Gets out of juvie, and the teacher that works there catches Quentin spreading gasoline around his house late one night, with enough to burn the whole place down. Next story. Not a teacher, but I sprayed aerosol and my teacher had an allergic reaction and passed out due to loss of oxygen. She was taken to a hospital and her heart stopped for 12 seconds. Happened my sophomore year of high school. For the next few years, my aunt, who was a teacher at the same high school, would tell me that the teachers would say they were getting a student known as the axe murderer. I mean, pretty solid nickname to be honest. Edit, the rumor was she died because she changed schools after that. She technically did, but for only 12 seconds. I should get a half teardrop tattoo. Also, of course, the spray indeed was Axe body spray. Next story. High school teacher. There was a rumor that a student was actually a model for Teen Vogue. I honestly believed it because she was a stunningly beautiful girl and a top student. Kind to everyone, responsible, tall, had a really striking model style of cheekbones. One day the class is making collages and going through magazines. Sure enough, one kid finds the latest Teen Vogue in the stack. "Hey, Savannah, is this you?" she asks, pointing to a picture of a girl in a prom dress. Savannah looks up and squints. Yep, that's me," she says, smiling, very matter-of-fact. "For real?" the whole class chimes in. "Not kidding, that's really me." And she pulls out her phone with the galley proofs her agent sent her to prove it. She was really humble about it. The class was starstruck for about 10 minutes and then got back to work. Savannah was a good sport. "Savannah, you're a better person than me. I did some modeling for Old Spice and, well, one, nobody really cared, but two, I still won't shut up about it." Next story. He stabbed his sister in the back with scissors. And it was true. He was also placed in my classroom along with 5 other students with intellectual disabilities. He also had emotional behavior issues which triggered meltdowns daily. He shouldn't have been placed with students that weren't able to defend themselves. Every day was a war zone. Next story. White daughter from a prominent local family attending a mostly black high school. Cheerleader, student government, model student by anyone's measure. Rumors circulate that she had been intimate with 4 basketball players at a party in full view of several people. Rumor spreads like wildfire for a number of obvious reasons, to the extent faculty and parents start hearing about it. Prominent parents hire people to look into the slander and potentially sue those who started it. Worked with the administration to campaign against bullying via rumors. Video of said event surfaces via the guy investigating it. Family moved to a whole different town in shame. Next story. High school math teacher here. Several years ago, I had a student who I suspected of constant academic dishonesty. I mean cheating. One of my colleagues felt the same. Neither one of us could ever catch him or come close, and just couldn't quite nail him. The kid graduated near the top of his class, apparently cheating his way there. So many of them do, actually. The student went on to Texas A&M, and we all moved on from him. Well, lo and behold, the guy made the 6 o'clock news for trying to steal a professor's test key by crawling through an AC vent into the professor's office. He fell through the ceiling and was arrested. Yes, sweet vindication! Next story. Rumor had it that a piano student did all his practice in the casket viewing room used for wakes in his family's funeral home business. He claimed that he'd play loud enough for hours to wake the dead. Turned out to be true. There actually was a baby grand in the viewing parlor, used occasionally for live wake music and hymns, where he did his practice. Next story. We had a kid that would self-pleasure in many of his classes in high school. I didn't believe it until he did it 2 empty seats to the right of me in chemistry. Let me tell you, I was horrified. I told my lab partner, who was this big football jock. He walked over to his friend's table and told them, so one of them walks right over to the kid and goes, "What's up, man? You good?" Jerky McSelf guy keeps his hands in his pants, turns red in the face, and starts stuttering. It was the most ridiculous situation ever. Worst part was his older sister went to the school, and she was a straight-A student, quite popular. It's kind of hard to believe they were related. I was also real friendly with my high school teachers, and they were all aware of the situation. Apparently, his English teacher saw it and didn't have the heart to confront him, and asked the other teachers for advice on dealing with the situation. It's hilarious when you think about it, but I wonder whatever happened to him. Next story. A special needs student had graduated, and the next year we kept hearing stories of her sleeping around, getting kicked out of her grandparents' home. She had always been a handful, but we figured social services would help her out if anything got too bad. She evidently got pregnant, but had slept with 25 plus men in a metropolitan area and had no idea who the dad was. She had some kind of fund set up for her when she turned 21, and the executors stole a ton of it, and she ran through the rest in under a year. Now we've lost track of her, as a few of my colleagues who were close had tried to help her out. Recently, I saw a Facebook post someone had shared that related to her where she listed over 50 men and all the acts that she had done with them. I have no idea if she had her baby or got to keep it or what. Next story. I'm not a teacher, but I have a story about a student from a culinary arts program. I visited a friend once in Minnesota a few years back when he was going to culinary school. He said we were going to meet up with a couple of his friends from school at the pool. On our way, he was telling me about how one of the girls in the program was sleeping with some of the instructors. For better grades, presumably? I don't really know. She was cute enough, but stick thin, which, hey, different strokes, right? Well, fast forward 2 years, my friend comes online and tells me, "Hey, OP, you remember that one skinny girl we went swimming with?" Yeah, well, she does adult content now. So I had actually met an adult content star before they got into adult content. Her videos are okay. Next story. Technically, I'm a teacher now, but this story is from when I was in high school. There was a rumor that 3 guys had kidnapped an elderly woman and killed her. Nobody really believes it because one of the guys still came to school. A few days later, the cops came and arrested him. Apparently, they robbed her, stuffed her in a trunk for hours in over 90-degree heat, and then dumped her body in a field. Next story. Not a teacher, but a former school librarian at a very specialized school. One kid in grade 6 had severe behavioral problems, and there were some staff members who refused to be in the room with him alone. He was a really scary kid, totally dead behind the eyes, kind of like a shark. I heard kids spreading rumors that his home life was a horrible mess. He was one of either 5 or 6 kids. I don't remember now. And that his younger brother had mental problems, and that his parents just didn't know how to handle any of it. Told them to knock it off, and I know they were given a lecture about not gossiping. The boy ended up not being invited back for the next grade. Anyway, turns out that it was all true. His younger brother had bipolar and was possibly schizophrenic or something similar. He apparently would run away, hurt himself, scream all the time. The information I have now paints a devastating picture of that poor child's mental health. It is so heartbreaking. He ended up self-unaliving at age 12. There was a TV documentary about it here. It's horrible and I feel awful for his brother. The kid I knew. It makes so much more sense now. Next story. That a student had consumed an entire container of hand sanitizer. I could not fathom that being something worth doing or him not getting caught before finishing the act, but no, it was true. They had to call poison control and the little idiot was drunk all afternoon. Next story. Shaniqua, obvious name change, hasn't been in school for the first couple of weeks because she had to be on Jerry Springer. I told my students to stop spreading stupid rumors like this and informed my mentor teacher. We were concerned about Shaniqua because by state law, students are dropped from the school and class enrollment if they miss 15 consecutive days of school. She had missed the first 13 days of school. She came back on what would have been the 15th day. Her episode aired 2 days after that. It was extremely trashy and obviously scripted, but dang did we teachers eat it up. She was on Jerry Springer because apparently she slept with her sister's baby daddy because her sister didn't wish her a happy birthday. So they fought each other on camera while screaming and the baby daddy was there, just very traditional Jerry Springer stuff. No, I will not link the episode because I don't want to have the account linked to my professional life. Sorry. I'm glad I watched the episode though. I think I treated her with a bit more understanding because she obviously had no home support if her mother would allow her underage butt to miss school to be on a trashy television program. Shaniqua ended up being one of my favorite students after all, as she was actually quite smart and passionate about the artistry of hair and makeup. I was heartbroken when she dropped out as soon as she turned 18. I wish I could have made her stay, but I can't save every student. Next story. Not a teacher by trade, but I did work as a helper at school for some quick cash. There was this kid, let's call him Craig, in year 10 who was a right idiot. The kind of person who picked on disabled kids and even outright attacked them sometimes. He was the kind of kid that made me want to knock him out every time he started being an idiot, just to show him that it wouldn't get him anywhere. Anyway, Craig doesn't turn up to one of his mock exams, but we knew he was in school as he had signed in that morning. Rumor that he went and attacked someone started going around with the kids. It wasn't that surprising until I started listening to what they were saying. The things that people were saying were oddly specific, like the color of the victim's hair and eyes, what parts of his body were attacked or broken, things like that. What was even more suspicious was that Craig started bragging about it to people, saying the exact same things. Eventually, one of the students came in with the exact injuries and physical traits that were going around in the rumors. He kept his mouth shut, but eventually hinted that someone at the school had done this to him. We called the police and social services pretty much instantly. As soon as Craig spotted the police, he broke down in tears, admitted to skipping his exams so he could go and torture this poor kid. I don't know where he is now, but he got expelled. Hopefully he got what he deserved. Next story. That one of my 6th grade students unalived a grown man at a gas station. No one believed him on staff, and after a few kids kept up the rumor long enough, admin got involved and brought the kid in. And he confessed to it, said it was all true, but didn't have any signs of remorse, acted like it was no big deal. So of course they assumed he was lying. Next year starts and he isn't on any of my rosters, so I go and ask the principal about him, because his brother is still here. Turns out he did in fact stab a knife into a random man's neck at a gas station. No reason was given, no reason was found out. He just walked up and stabbed him. Next story. Students are always getting in trouble for selling candy, drinks, and chips at the school I teach at. I'm actually whatever about it. They're only doing it because the school district barred the cafeteria from selling them. It's not like they're becoming overnight millionaires, right? Except when I heard about one student. Students were selling in my class, and I gave them some crap, said, "Put it up, do it when the bell rings." They're usually cool, as I don't push anything beyond that, but I did inquire. I was like, "How much do you guys make?" They said they make a couple hundred a week from their cut. A couple hundred from their cut. They basically fess up that they're smurfs. One kid spends about $1,000 a month or so at Sam's Club and stocks up. He gives these guys he trusts 25 to 50% of whatever they sell. He is making a few $1,000 a month, but no one would fess up on his identity. And honestly, more power to him. His intentions were a car, college, and some video games, no drugs or anything. But months later, he gets busted, made almost 10 grand in a few months, and some legal proceedings followed. Not sure how much would hold up in court, but he did buy a car, a laptop for college, and managed to save some. Next story. First day of teaching for me. Working class high school. I'm assigned remedial biology. VP comes to my room after class. "I just wanted to tell you about Jennifer. She lives in a group home but was just released from a girls' camp, basically juvenile hall, this summer because of an assault on her last science teacher. Good luck." Turned out Jennifer was fine in my class. It probably helped that I'm a 6'4", 200-pound man from a similar type of background. She was extremely low IQ, had a horrible social situation, but was basically a good kid. Next story. Her father was charged with soliciting a minor and possession of CP. It came as a real shock, as the guy was very well liked among the staff. I don't want to give too many details as the case is still pretty fresh and I don't want to accidentally out this little girl. He was a local high school teacher who was caught trying to arrange a meeting with an elementary school-aged child about the same age as his daughter. Thankfully, he did not succeed. As far as I know, the daughter was not involved and was never a victim of any SA or anything. She is now living with her grandmother. Next story. Teacher, after I'd graduated at a leavers party, asked if it was true that I sold weed. I had been caught smoking near school once, hung out with that crowd. I denied it, of course, a little at first, but eventually confessed, figuring I have nothing to lose at this point. He was in awe, said he would have never guessed. Because I was a pretty good student, I guess, academically. He didn't act particularly disappointed, but then proceeded to give me a 10-minute lecture on how I risked sabotaging my future, how weed was bad and all that jazz, but afterwards he just let me be, without any consequences. Now, it's not the craziest of rumors, but I don't think he took it all that well, all things considered. It might have changed the way he saw me as an ex-pupil, and I kind of regret telling him now. Next story. Kind of relevant. In high school, a friend of mine was challenged to a fight by a known bully. The bully warned that he intended to use a knife. The day of said fight, my friend responded with bringing a machete. My friend ended up cutting off one of the bully's fingers. The fight was kept on the DL and I was the only spectator. This was because I was kind of a neutral party member, having ties with the bully's parents, and being close friends with the other guy. Bully never returned back to our school because he ended up being shipped off to a military school. Too long didn't read. I started a rumor about the bully losing a knife fight to someone, and he ended up losing a finger and got shipped out to military school. Next story. Not a teacher, but happened in middle school. 6th grade to be exact. Apparently some kids were doing weed in the morning. Not bad enough, right? They were effing 11, and it was in the middle of the school campus where everyone hangs out. Apparently they were doing it in the bathroom that always smelled, and after a few days everyone was talking about them getting expelled. Teachers ask if anyone knows where they are. Then the teacher's pet says, they got caught smoking weed. Next story, that their parents were pimps. The two kids' surnames changed suddenly on all the registers. A colleague Googled the original surname, not common in England, and found that both parents had been charged with kidnapping, drug possession with intent to supply, and sex trafficking offenses. Also, they had a fight outside the courtroom with one of the victims' families. Both kids were nasty, racist, and violent, not much fun to work with. Then they left. No one misses them. Next story. I was that rumor for a bunch of teachers. I subbed in my old high school after graduating college, and one day the fresh new crop of teachers were discussing this student who had gotten a really bad injury her senior year and had permanent damage. They thought it was over-exaggerated by some of the older staff and students, until one of said older staff gestured to me and asked for vindication. Well, that was fun. Next story. Not a teacher, but in the beginning of 7th grade, a tech teacher was arrested for stealing money from the yearbook club, even though he made $120,000 a year. At the end of the year, a teacher from my elementary school was arrested for SA, which a 20-year-old claimed after 7 years of silence. It happened at the teacher's house. Next story. Miss OPF, there's poop on the floor. Child A put it there. There was indeed a little pooplet on the floor. It was so perfect it looked fake. After a little bit of detective work, Child A admitted that it was from her. On the bright side, Child A was 3 years old, so it wasn't as disturbing as it would be if I taught in a high school. Next story. Yo, I have the story that's perfect for this. It's so specific I'm kinda scared someone will figure out who I am, but whatever. I wasn't a teacher, but there was absolutely no way this rumor didn't get told by teachers too. It happened the last week of 8th grade, just before summer break and the start of high school. So I grew up in a really ethnic neighborhood. It was really unique, and after all this time, I haven't really found anywhere that was even remotely like this place. And I've traveled a lot. My school was the nice school in the area, which wasn't saying much, but it meant the kids tended to be closer to middle class. Lots of lower middle class immigrant kids who had straight A's and strict curfews, especially the girls, who were expected by their various cultures to be proper. The rumor was about 3 girls, 2 of which fit this mold to a T. The other was a pretty nondescript white girl who we'll call Sarah. The 3 of them were best friends, I mean thick as thieves. They were vastly different people from different backgrounds, but they all wanted to go to the same high school together, signed all their yearbooks together, signed their initials all over the schools, etc. Pretty standard pre-teen girl stuff, really. Now, Sarah had an attention-seeking problem. It was something everyone was used to by this point. We'd all been classmates for years. But every once in a while, Sarah would spread some outlandish rumor that would get its round in the rumor mill and run its course. Again, my school was full of conservative immigrants, so they were pretty mild. But nevertheless, the stories were always about her, never someone else. It certainly wasn't about her 2 BFFs, and it definitely was never something like, Sarah invited a bunch of 20-plus Jamaican construction guys from her building lobby to an orgy with her friends, and they tried all the butt stuff. Except for that one time when it was. When I heard it, I didn't believe it. It just didn't seem possible. The rumor spread like a wildfire through the school. There were elements to the story that were really believable. The rumor never took on that exaggerative tone where the story morphs and changes because everyone seemed to agree on the sequence of events. Also, it pretty much guaranteed that Sarah herself had started it. In the last week, the 3 girls had a noticeable fallout. They always used to spend their lunch breaks on the stairs, but during the last week, they stopped. They stopped talking about going to the same school, with one of the girls choosing last minute for another school far outside of the district. They stopped signing yearbooks as a trio. For years, I was sure the rumor was just an exaggerated sequence of events. It was partially believable Sarah might do something like that, still really unlikely, but the other 2 as well? Where would they have found the time? They were pretty and normal and got good grades. I thought privately they must have had a house party with those guys, maybe drank a bit. Sarah was using the situation for attention, and the other two were not having it. I don't know. What I know for sure is that years later, after using this example as a personal reminder about the dangers of gossip. Anyways, I ended up going to my friend's BBQ, and she tells me straight on that after the graduation dance, Sarah's mom had offered to pick her up. While in the car, Sarah's mom started trying to recruit my friend for an orgy party. Anyways, after all these years of thinking it never happened for her, I'm so sorry. Next story. I work at a Title I disciplinary school. Going into it, I knew some of the kids had gotten out of juvenile detention, but I didn't think too far into it. I heard a rumor that this kid was high in a gang, and I brushed it off as just kids trying to act tougher than they are. Turns out I was talking to some of the teachers and officers, police work with both the school and the local PD, and they told me that this kid had and was currently fighting multiple accessory to murder charges. Woke me up real fast. Too long didn't read. Student can make people disappear. Next story. Oh, where to begin? I used to teach at a high school in Houston, Texas that was mainly for Latino students that were new to the country. I once had a student that stopped coming to school suddenly. His family was running from the cartel because his dad was in it, then tried to get out of it. I had twins whose mom was a part of Los Zetas in Mexico. I've had ex-con students who were part of gangs and unalived people when they were kids. I'd rather not discuss my current students' rumors, because it's middle school, and some of these things are terrifying. Next story. I remember when I was in 4th grade, a kid bent over the playground and picked up a broken jigsaw blade that came from who knows where, but it looked like it had been outside for years, maybe 2 inches long. I was looking at it, when a teacher who had to see him pick it up grabbed it from him and drug him off the playground. I later heard he had been suspended for bringing a knife to school. Next story. In 8th grade, about midway through the year, a random rumor started spreading around that this kid was pleasuring himself in the bathroom. No one really believed this because the kid was pretty normal. Maybe a bit of an a-hole, but that's besides the point. So the next day, the two brothers had to begin a rumor that caught him, and again, apparently the rumor didn't make its way all the way to him, because at this time they recorded it on their phones and showed it to everybody. They were really weird. Needless to say, the kid was embarrassed and denied the whole thing until someone showed him the video. After that, he was homeschooled, and when high school started, he went to a different school. I haven't seen him since. Next story. One of my students was always really popular, had lots of friends, but one was odd. She had a gun. That wasn't even the rumor. The rumor was she was effing this really old dude that ate worms and crap. Weird stuff, but we all have our kinks. I'm a bit one to judge. I guess you can care more about the event itself, not so much the minuscule things that led up to it. So here it is. They got married before she effing graduated. Completely threw her life away for this old guy. Anyhow, some stuff happened and she killed the guy. Poor bird person. Next story. In junior year, we discovered the chive. One of my teachers that year was very liberal and tried to push on the students really hard. One day I noticed a chivette that looked an awful lot like her had posted a selfie in her panties. I started looking around the classroom and found a lot of KCCO stuff. Turns out the chivette in question had the same glasses and phone as my teacher. Being the smart idiot that I was, pointed out the chive stuff to her and she threatened to write me up. I never proved it, but boy, did I have one for that teacher ever since. Next story. That a kid who didn't speak, sophomore in high school, was silent because he was traumatized from watching his brother die. I guess what happened was when they were younger, they were playing in a park in New York City during a rainstorm. Younger brother gets hit by lightning. Older brother, my student, had some developmental delays and didn't realize the brother was already dead. So he picked him up and carried him many blocks to the hospital. Rumor was that the brother was very obviously dead. Father was absent in the kid's life and the mother was a junkie. Kid ended up being moved to a halfway house for teens near where I worked after that and started attending our school. Next story. I teach middle school. There was a rumor that a girl, 7th grade, had relations with a guy, also 7th grade, but in the girls' locker room after school. The guy was a bit of a punk, a thug wannabe, if you will. Then the new rumor the next day that it was a new guy the next day behind the stage in the gym. Turns out the latter was true. They were caught in the act. She confesses to the other episode of said intimacy. The guy initially denies it, then eventually also confesses. She ended up sleeping with 2 more guys, both unprotected as far as we know. All 3 students suspended within 10 days. Their behaviors improved after they returned. Next story. Not a teacher, but 2 students were having intimacy in the girls' bathroom. The security thought there was a fight going on because of all the slapping and noises echoing inside there. The principal, some teachers arrived to check in on the commotion. The 2 were all over each other. The staff didn't have it in them to halt the action, so they just kind of watched and waited for them to finish before scolding them about hygiene and sent them back to class. Oh, look, dude, at the end of the day, high schoolers tend to do high school things, okay? But the teachers and the principal sat there and watched 2 kids get at it? Ugh, write them up. Anyways, guys, that concludes our stories of craziest rumors, and I gotta tell you, it's a wild world out there, you know? We didn't really have stuff like that go on in my high school, but to be fair, I was homeschooled, so, you know, the rumors were pretty quickly dissected. So anyways, guys, thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. If you have any stories like this that you would like to share, feel free to drop them down below in the comment section, because we love reading a little bit of chaos and a little bit of nonsense, mostly if everything works out well in the end. But you know what? Feel free to share your stories regardless. And as always, we will see you in the next one.